Some negative vibes. There should never be any negative vibes hanging over Margaritaville. That's the whole point. A battle is intensifying over the late Jimmy Buffett's estate. And CNBC's wealth reporter, Robert Frank, joins us now with more. I was just saying, margaritas are the greatest drink and the most popular drink. Were they as popular before, or did that song actually make it even more popular? I think a little bit of both.
He certainly did a great job commercializing the margarita through Margaritaville and everything else, and that is now the subject of this big battle because Jimmy Buffett's widow battling his longtime accountant over a trust estimated at over $275 million. Now, Jane Buffett, who married Jimmy back in 1977, is seeking to remove Rick Mosenter as her co-trustee of the marital trust. Now, when Jimmy Buffett died 2 years ago, most of his assets went into the trust. Those assets include $85 million in equity in the aforementioned Margaritaville. That's the Buffett-themed company that has 30 restaurants and bars, 20 hotels, along with retirements, cruises, lots of communities there. $35 million in real estate, $15 million in private jet and airplane holdings, $11 million in fine art, $5 million in cars, so Jimmy liked his cars, and $2 million in musical instruments. Must have had a lot of guitars. Now, Jane Buffett says Mosenter has refused to give her financial details and has been, quote, openly hostile and adversarial. She says the $2 million a year in projected income from the trust marks a return of less than 1%. Now, Mosenter, for his part, he's filed his own lawsuit seeking to remove Jane, saying she has been, quote, completely uncooperative and needs to adjust her lifestyle to live on the mere $2 million a year. Now, a judge is ultimately going to decide whether either was going to stay or be replaced by a professional trustee, or maybe he'll just decide they need changes in attitudes, so to speak. Now, for more on the Buffett case and lessons for other families that are passing down wealth from this case, check out the Inside Wealth newsletter at cnbc.com/insidewealth. That's cnbc.com/insidewealth.
I'm really sad to hear this. Nobody wants to hear about squabbles, especially by someone who's so beloved.
They're like night follows day, I think, when it's almost $300 million.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting about this is typically when people pass down wealth, they create a marital trust. Jimmy chose to have a second trustee. Now, clearly he assumed they would get along. Now, why did he appoint a second trustee? Either he just didn't want his wife to have to worry about all these business issues, right, or he wanted someone else in the room to monitor things. Either way, she doesn't like it.
She would have had to sign off on the marital trust to begin with, right? You can't.
No, that's part of Jimmy's. That. And Jimmy had a very. The irony here is he had a very detailed, well-constructed plan for this estate, and it still fell apart because of often the reason they fell apart, which is personalities and emotions. And she just doesn't want somebody else overseeing what to do. And he, Mosenter, for his part, says, I represent what Jimmy would have wanted. And he would have wanted oversight. He wouldn't have wanted.
You ought to be able to get 10%, not 1%.
Well, a lot of these assets are illiquid,
That's the big problem.
And they're also not income producing. Now, we don't know what the song catalog is. That wasn't listed as an asset in this case, so we don't know what kind of income that produces. Although Margaritaville in the previous quarter was throwing off like $14 million a year. So why that wasn't in this projection of $2 million, we don't know.
Well, that does seem pretty stingy if you're looking at that.
And so it just appears to be a clash. So what a judge is likely to do is step in here and say, like, okay, you guys can't work it out clearly. We're going to put in a professional trustee, which probably should have happened in the first place. A lot of people just appoint a friend as a co-trustee saying, I trust this guy. I trust this guy. He's not going to steal money. But oftentimes that creates a personality issue.
But it's the illiquid nature of the assets that are probably the bigger problem here, too. You can't sell down some of these things. And that's got to be frustrating.
And when I talk to a lot of probate attorneys, they say with $100 trillion in wealth being passed down to next generations over the next 25 years, they are seeing a flood of cases around estate transfers. And again, no matter how well constructed the plan might be, it's always personalities, always emotions. And, you know, if death and taxes are certain, fights over inheritance is inevitable. It almost always happens, especially when you get numbers, Joe, to your point, like $275 million.
I wish I was leaving a private jet in my will. I don't see that. I have a private jet card for Warren.
He had a company called Strange Bird, that invested
no money on it.
That invested in aircraft, and apparently.
But he had it, yeah, sure.
He probably it looks like it looks like he had multiple shares or equity in multiple planes.
In multiple planes, and,
yeah.
and I don't know how you get to that number in cars.
What do you say? I made enough money to buy Miami, but I pissed it all away. Never meant to last. Never meant to last.